The word corruption, an English language word which of course emanates from the Latin language, which literally means to rupture, to break apart, often applied long time ago to the corruption in death of the human body. In a modern context, as soon as you see the word corruption, you are generally referring to politics or government, at least in democracies like ours. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a strange miasma around corruption. It is the biggest, most virulent, the hottest, most spoken, most quoted, most campaigned upon topic year after year after year after year. The amount of attention corruption gets, no other subject probably gets in politics, in governance. But what is the corruption that we are talking about? Are we talking about the corruption of when you want to get some work done in your house and you have to slip a note to someone to get a file accessed? Is that the corruption, or are we talking about political corruption? Now, if you look at recent Indian history, fodder scam, Lalu Prasad Yadav, convicted for corruption. Sasikala and Jayalalitha posthumously convicted for corruption. Beyond that, Lalu is back in politics, 2G scam, all of them are back in parliament, CWG scam, I don't know where is Suresh Kalmadi, what happened, how many people went to jail, can't really say. Coalgate scam, can't really say how many people are in jail. Bofors, you can keep on going on and backwards. How many people actually went to jail, paid a price other than a political price per se for corruption? Now, a few years ago, the biggest hot topic was Robert Vadra and his dealings and what land he had bought and what price he had sold it for. Was he just an amazingly good businessman, or maybe just lucky, or did he have some insider knowledge? Is insider knowledge corruption? Is it per se that he is not in active politics? So is that political corruption? Can't say. Now, today, for the first time, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra has been named in a charge sheet of the Enforcement Directorate. She is not charged, she is not an accused anywhere, but her name has been mentioned in a charge sheet regarding a property that was bought in her name from an individual, then later sold back to the individual. Last time she was publicly questioned was some now person in custody over the collapse of a bank, accusing her of forcing him to buy a painting at an exorbitant price. Is that political corruption? I don't know. But the premise is very simple. When we say political corruption and it is the biggest topic of the day, who actually pays a price? Lalu Yadav paying the price? I don't know. It's a conversation worth having. So let's have it. Xavier Rodriguez joining us on the broadcast. He's of course a member of the BJP. PKD Nambiar is with us also, and Gyanendra Mishra joining us, and Himanshu Bhatt. So, Mr. Nambiar, let me begin with you, sir. Okay. Now, I've just mentioned all these various scams and scandals, but 2G was the biggest thing. Kani Mori went to jail, back in parliament. A Raja went to jail, back in parliament, and it's like nothing happened. I don't even know what happened to Commonwealth Games, 10, 15 years back. It was the biggest issue in the country. Can't really say what happened. Coal auction, can't really say what really happened there. Even in Bofors per se, sir, or the arms deal scams, many arms projects that were cancelled in the past. Can't really say who other than some middlemen and lawyers, which politician actually went to jail, had to end their career because of corruption. Can you think of any, sir?
Oh, well, that is the irony of our democracy and our judicial process, wherein we may end up having an accusation on an alleged corruption on somebody, but then the way our judicial system functions, which definitely have a long duration of and the process from the small court to the high to the top court. The politicians do know the way to keep themselves away or nothing else. There will be a heart issue or a health issue. They will not be going to the jail except in few conditions. Few places we may have seen in this last 50, 60 years. Maybe you may not be able to even count on 100. But whereas we know that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of cases, corruption cases are there across the country, whether it is from a panchayat level to the topmost level. Corruption definitely need not to say that it is the cancer for an economy for a country like us, and unfortunate, very unfortunate that that the people who were at the helm of affairs, having power, even despite having power in everything which they wanted to have it in their life, still continue to wanted to grow more or continue to wanted to earn more or in a corrupt way. Like in this case, for an example, Robert Vadra, we all know that the famous Damadji and Haryana, then the Mr. Huda, how they have used their power to get maximum number of real estate deals, whether it is in Gurgaon, Faridabad, or in Sonipat, in various areas. But it is unfortunate that 9.5 years we have been, Mr. Modi is in power, but still there is no major action. There are actions which are taking place. Even there are some other people says that yeah, if we take an action, very strong action so quickly, then people will say that it is political.
Then you are doing witch hunt, exactly. So there can be many reasons.
That is there. But in the meantime, it is important to know that somewhere this needs to be fixed. And all the people who are in the business circle, like the people like us, do know that there are a lot of these kind of malpractices have been done. And the real estate has been one of the major area of Robert Vadra and the family.
Could be, could be, I don't know. Like I said, was he conniving? He's not really in active politics. He doesn't contest himself. He doesn't, I mean, he shows up at once in a while at, to vote and at some rallies. But I don't know, was he lucky? Did he, how can you and I tell? You and I can't tell it. So there has to be some investigation and somebody's got to convict you. The investigation seemed to never end. So, I mean, literally from the time of Bofors, Himanshu Bhatt, at the end of the day, what gets achieved? Is it because the cases are just impossible to prove, or as Mr. Nambiar said, civic cases, forget it. They just keep going on, property disputes, divorces. I mean, I've seen buildings, वो खंडर बन गई हैं for 40-50 years, पड़ी हुई हैं, but वो civic dispute खत्म नहीं हुआ है. That these are civic cases, they can't be solved. Recently, I saw some notification regarding asking Satyam to pay back money still owed. Biggest corporate fraud case in the country, abhi bhi chal raha hai. Is it simply because of that, or it is simply that political corruption is just a talked about issue, but there is nothing anybody can do about it? It's just part of life.
No, it's not anybody can do about it. Nothing, nobody can do about it. It's a question of perception creation. I'm being very, very clear. Be it any politician, they always believe that live elephant is more useful than the dead one. So once you hang someone, the issue dies. But when you keep him on, when you keep on naming him and shaming him, the issue persists. And the perceptions are created. You see, Lalu Prasad Yadav, he's playing his politics, all right. But how useful it is? Do people understand him? Do people believe in him? That's my basic question. So, this corruption is become the game of perception. Some years back, you shouted so many things about Narendra Bhai and Amit Shah. What happened? By naming
no, but
and
Himanshu,
shaming,
but the biggest problem,
I mean,
the itch, the irritation that I can actually, you can feel it in the Congress party is that they're not being able to do it. No, they're not being able to tarnish the image of Narendra Modi as corrupt. They tried because they want कि भी जैसे राजीव के साथ हुआ था, बोफोर्स चिपक जाए तो हम रफायल खोल देते हैं. रफायल खोला कुछ नहीं निकला. And to the BJP's frustration, they've been trying to tarnish Kejriwal's image on corruption. despite all the liquor scam, this scam, that scam, somehow he managed to, win the new municipal elections because it doesn't stick. So I completely agree with you. Perception matters. So is it all about perception? The rest of it is irrelevant.
Everything is becoming irrelevant. It has been proved irrelevant. Be it anybody ruling. Just see the history of 75 years and you will understand. Free India's history, you will understand. What type of cases we have had of corruption. You had a prime minister who himself used to say, I send a rupee, only 15 paise reaches the poor people. What was that? That was a tacit exception. He accepted that our system is totally corrupt.
Yeah, so like I said, there's a
whether you like it or not, you have to accept that.
So we distinguish between this corruption where everybody at their every level is taking a cut versus the political corruption, politicians who are corrupt. Okay,
Corrupt.
so Savio Rodriguez, having been a journalist, a commentator, an entrepreneur, and now a politician, we understand that to live life, you require funds. Anytime you go about generating funds, you can be accused of any kinds of corruption. Okay, but in a reality check, in the biggest cases in which we have spent our entire careers and lives discussing, Bofors to 2G, what actually happened? Nothing happens.
You see, Rishabh, the reason why nothing happens is because corruption is systemic as far as this country is concerned. And let me tell you why I say that. I'll give you an example of a friend, and I will continue to call him a friend no matter what he's done, was very, very vocal and vehemently spoke about corruption and how we should not be corrupt. And at one point of time, for an effort in Goa of one of his work that needed to be done, he was asked to pay a certain amount of money. He turned to me and he said, can you help me with this? I said, doing what? You want me to talk to them? You want me to ensure that it's exposed? What do you want? So he says, no, I'm willing to pay that money. I said, I'm sorry. It cannot be done. So a man or a woman who continues to profess that we should fight corruption, and then chooses the part of corruption itself, shows that the system itself is systemic. So today we might talk highly about corruption. We might say that we want to end corruption. But for corruption to end, it's not a top-down approach. It has to be a down-top approach. Because corruption is happening at the smallest and the minutest places in the government and across governments. So the halo that we carry around saying that we are ending corruption, Rishabh, let me say it openly and honestly, as a political person and also as a journalist, it has not come to an end. It has lessened, but it has not come to an end because it's systemic. It exists. There are people, common people, who continue to be harassed as far as corruption is concerned. We talk politically and in media about the big corruption cases that are there. But as you rightly said, nothing happens to anyone because justice is blind. Please remember that.
No, but
justice is blind.
No, but the issue, Savio, is okay because your friend might be running a business or you're having a job, and I could tell you that there were times getting a driving license, the instructor would keep on failing you. You would just keep getting failed until you put a 100 rupee note somewhere. Okay, so that is the endemic corruption that affects the lives of everyone, right? You just can't get the license. आप जो भी कर लो, आप Michael Schumacher से training लेके आ जाओ, certificate लेके आओ. You could be an F1 driver, but that babu will not pass you. Then there's that kind of corruption. Then there's the other kinds of corruption जो इस level पे होती है that you and I can't comprehend. We're talking about, I mean, look at it, in somebody's house, in almaras, you find not little bit of money, little bit of jewelry. All these politicians say we have 10,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees. You find 300 crores. 300 crores of rupees. Let me put it in perspective. You could have built a wing of the House of Parliament in 300 crore rupees. Okay. So there is, then you have the Malias of the world who are at the next level. They are not having a struggling life. They are chilling in London. Lalu Prasad Yadav goes to jail. He runs government from jail. He's back in politics. He's part of Gathbandhan. I'm sorry to say, but the same Congress leaders are sitting with him. The same anti-corruption campaigner Arvind Kejriwal is also sharing a room with him. These are all hypocrisies of realism in life. I understand this. So let me try my best to put perspective into this. Let's get Gyanendra Mishra into this. Mr. Mishra, what is the reality check? So now when I hear, okay, and in this case is a very small note, that Priyanka Gandhi Vadra's name has been mentioned in an ED case. She's not mentioned as an accused. A case has been drawn up in which there was a land deal in which she was one of the parties. That has been mentioned in a supplementary charge sheet of the ED. The Congress is saying, oh, the BJP is going to come after her like they went after everybody else. There's a Herald case going on. What is the point of all of this? Should we just not take it with a pinch of salt and nothing else?
So, Rishabh, thanks for having me. And it has so many divisions, and I think the Ravana has the 10 faces, but look at the Ravana faces.
Mishra ji, forgive us. I think the connection is weak. We're not able to hear you very clearly. So, Mr. Nambiar, why don't you take that? Do we just take it with a pinch of salt? I mean, like I said, the amount of mind space, television space, political space, debate space, speeches, rallies, campaigns that are run on corruption in this country. But what actually happens?
Rishabh, as I said, there are allegations from the point of view of just from the political point of view. There may be a lot of corruption charges have been alleged against each other, like what you said. In the case of Narendra Modi, people said that, oh yes, Rafael. Then they said something else, something else.
No, the Chaukidar Chor hai was the biggest nara before the last election.
So it is also to do with your credibility as an individual or a family or a political party. For an example, the Congress party has ruled this country for almost 55 to 60 years. And there has been one of the Congress is equal to corruption. That kind of a template was made even for so many years, whether it is during the Narasimha Rao government, of course, Rajiv Gandhi, so we all know that the famous offers to many other cases and violations. And the UPA 1 and 2 was all about corruption. So now the perceived corruption, like in the case of 2G, you may not be able to find the money where exactly it is, but it is being benefited from the point of view of a spectrum sale. The price of spectrum cannot be defined from that time to now. That time the spectrum were only for the basic calls. That was a huge and precious and very, very very important thing. But today we are talking about 5G and all is a luxury. So that was a necessity. So the money was big. People have taken away. We all know that how many mines were given away in a straw prices to the people in Jharkhand, Orissa, and in many other places, including Karnataka and Andhra. So corruption is there.
So let me ask you the complicated question, Mr. Nambiar.
My one request.
Yeah, please finish.
Rishabh, I have a request to you. Generally, people like the way you take up one particular issue and then you take it up. So in the same way, I request you to take up an issue that is the judicial speed in the way the judiciary should address these corruption charges. There are some CBI cases and etc. CBI courts are there. But generally, the time the judiciary is taking is so long that also helping the political parties to tarnish the image of another person, or maybe if he has not done something wrong, then he is also in that.
It's a very fair point, but I also then have to reasonably put out there that these cases sometimes never even go to, forget the judiciary, they don't even reach the stage of prosecution. They are forever under investigation. Who is being prosecuted currently for the Sarda scam, which has been going on for 10 years? Who is standing trial? 10 years, chali ja raha hai. At one point of time, do we say that the scam happened, this is the person, this had been a murder or a rape, it would have been unforgivable. So my question, Mr. Nambiar, is, and it's a very practical question, as long as we are eliminating the systemic corruption, which is the 85% that Himanshu Bhatt referred to, which is the income tax officer wanting his cut, and the license babu wanting his cut, and the guy who's putting your phone in a sarkari BSNL or MTNL wanting 200 rupees. As long as we eliminate this and we improve the lives of ordinary people, do we just accept that at the Malia level or at the Lalu level, these kind of things will happen? Nobody cares.
Oh, well, Rishabh, the bottom to top approach and the top to bottom approach somebody was mentioning. Here, one thing has happened in the last 9.5 years. We know that the Prime Minister and the Union government, at least, or even in the governments wherever BJP is ruling, there is a zero corruption, at least as a mantra they are trying to practice. I am not saying that it is all doodh ka dhula hua hai, and that may not happen in a society like us, or for that matter, even in the US or in the European system. Advanced economies also do have the corruption, but then to an extent, we have been able to change that. One of the primary thing is that the direct benefit transfer to the people.
Correct.
That alone has changed the way our economic landscape or the way our welfare schemes have been reaching to the people, even including the ration. If you ever gone to a ration shop, you will not get a ration unless and until you yourself go and put your biometric.
Correct.
So quite a bit have been taken care, but there is much more to go. Election is something which requires to have a corrupt free. As long as the money is money is going around during the election time, the not in lakhs of crores of money is transferred here and there, irrespective of the political party. That also add to the
corruption. So I'm trying to have a reasonable understanding of what my new measuring yard should be. Himanshu, but before I leave the last word with Savio, Himanshu, in a very practical sense, Mr. Bhatt, if we, as I've defined and you've defined, if we are ensuring that the vast majority of the funds that are supposed to go to the weakest section of the society are reaching, that the harassment of the citizens at that petty, petulant, constable level, traffic cop level of corruption is being eliminated, that when you're jumping a red light, your photograph gets taken, end of story, there is no harassment from the cop, that as long as this is happening, that if personal corruption in government at the highest levels is being eliminated, yes, that these are enough substantive wins that not having prosecuted Sardar, CWG, 2G, Colgate, prosecuting political corruption, then that doesn't really matter as much.
No, it's not that. See, one thing, two things you said yourself. One is a primary level corruption. Another is a top level people being really honest and corruption free. Now that you are having, that combination, on top you are having people who are known corrupt. You try to stick anything to him, it will not stick. That's a definite thing. But if you can get rid of this primary level of corruption, what will happen is, once the people are used to living the life which they deserve, I'm being very careful in speaking. Once people start living the life that they deserve, then what will happen is automatically they will pounce on these bigger ones, Malias and other people. So it needs to go, I a little agree with what Savio said, from bottom to up. First, you have to reform your society. And to reform your society, what you need to do? You need to provide them with the basic ingredients of a good life and make them understand the value of a corruption-free society. See, one example Mr. Nambia gave, wonderful example, digital transfers. See what's happening, money is reaching, biometrics, ration, people are getting it. Previously, it used to be, that my maid servant used to take my ration card 10 years ago and say, sir, aapka ration card de do, main ration le aungi. So that has slowly and steadily stopped.
Yes.
Now she requests, okay, sir, please, you also come now.
Okay.
Now this is a step.
Okay.
So this is, 76 years, only 9 years we are learning.
I'm going to leave Savio with the last word on this. Savio, if a police raid had happened in somebody's house and 300 bodies had been found, okay, you opened up the cupboards and under the beds and 300 bodies had been found, it would have been the most horrific disaster, probably, you're a journalist as well, probably of the decade. Okay? But when 300 crores is found, it's not the same. And I know, human life, money. But that 300 crores feeds people, builds hospitals, that saves lives, that, it translates into what lives could have been impacted by that crazy sum of money. Okay? So, do we really care about corruption? Does it really bite us, or does it only affect us in two places? That at the very head, that person should not have a Swiss bank account, that when they retire, they shift to Monaco. Okay? Imagine if Narendra Modi, eventually when he retires, or Amit Shah when he retires, Yogi Adityanath when he retires, immediately they're living on a yacht in Monaco and watching the F1 race. Okay? So, as long as that is not happening, as long at the point of contract level, my corruption is not irritating, I'm getting my ration, all of this is then tamasha, doesn't matter.
Well, Rishabh, like I said earlier, the problem is that corruption is a systemic problem, and it starts with the giver more than the taker. So let's look at this. And I'm saying this out of pure experience, being a journalist. And while I am extremely confident that the powers that be are not corrupt right at the top, I cannot say the same for the BJP states where there are people as well as the Congress states. Corruption is systemic. So in order to deal with corruption, you have to bring a system that is non-corrupt. And to deal with a non-corrupt system is where technology plays a very important role. For example, in jobs, today, in my state, for example, there are allegations against some leaders that there is money being paid to get a government job. Now, that person pays the money for the job. You think the person who's paid money for the job is not going to be corrupt to recover his money? Of course, he's going to be corrupt. He's going to do the same. So the cycle never stops. How do you stop it? You stop it with technology. You move all the jobs onto a technology platform where people based on merit actually get their jobs, rather than allowing for a decision to be taken by people in powers, because that's where corruption happens. So today, to deal with corruption, one of the things that the center must introduce is the influence of technology on various crucial things like tenders and jobs, so that people cannot do any malpractice.
No, so no doubt about it. In the corruption reduction that you and I see different, okay, it's the technological solutions are the game changer. Today, I have been filing my tax returns, my hair have gone grey, so for long enough now, they filed automatically, my refund comes automatically, I don't have to meet anyone, okay. There is no prospect of any officer anyway harassing me. I get a salary, there is no other source of income, it's pretty straightforward, and even for other people. So yes, there is no doubt about it, technology is an answer, transparency is an answer, but I'm trying to touch upon a point. It's not a nobody can come up with an objective answer to this, obviously, but I'm going to thank my guests for attempting to try, and I'm going to leave that thought with you. Amount of energy and conversation we have about the biggest level of political corruption, what actually matters to you? Does the pettiest level of corruption matter to you? And as long as at the top of government you trust the people to be honest and not be personally corrupt, and at the petty levels the corruption is being reduced, the rest of this is just tamasha. Think about it.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.